But having spoken to Martin and heard some of the crap he's saying, I'm not at all confident he's going to run with this. So I sort of expanded it a little bit to sort of not just concentrate on the album, but to go back.
So we can seriously diss crap.
Back into your childhood.
Crowbar innermost psyche.
Strange sexual habits and whatever.
Well, you are.
So
if he don't use it, someone's going to use it. I'll make sure they will.
I'm with Martin Wilson, right?
Sorry?
I'm with you.
Well, I'll give it him. He's going to get everything he asked for and more. So if he doesn't run with it, then he's going to be fine.
You know what?
Sorry?
Is it running yet?
You know what you need, mate.
Is it running? Is it running yet?
Why has he got a problem with this interview?
Why has he got a problem?
Does he hate us or something?
His comment was, fine, send me your photographs, which he would say, because he'll come mega, he'll pull them out and say, of course we were there at the beginning.
Yeah.
But as far as interviews are concerned, we like to do them centrally, he said.
Basically,
he does them.
Oh, I see. So the problem is not with us, but
so you've got to be slightly more boring than you are.
The problem is with us, I mean, one of the things that we're missing out on here is that he's done bands like Jump, he's done a very big Jump, who are not selling the albums that we are and not as well known as we are. The reason why Jump are in and we are out is because when we did the first CRS gig, we did it under the guise.
You've explained there.
His parting comment was that no doubt we'll have a chat with one of the boys when they come up in June. You know, that's a sort of
he's kind of going to
no
like get your interview and stick it in a cupboard and then have a quick chat with us.
No, he's going to get it. I mean, I'll turn this into a script to send it up to him.
You haven't got a problem anyway, Paul, because if Martin doesn't take it, one of the other prog scenes will definitely. Bill will take it for a start, no question.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing about doing an interview with Martin is I would have to take it very seriously or else he'd punch me.
Yes,
I wouldn't argue.
I'd have to say things like fish is really cool.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I didn't mean that, yeah.
Okay.
You can edit that out, couldn't you?
Sorry?
You can edit that out, couldn't you?
What I put down on paper might differ.
There we go.
Some of these questions may not be necessarily any sequence, but when I actually put it in writing and I'll send you a copy, it might sort of change the order. I'll keep the words the same.
If some of the sentences we respond in aren't in the sequence, can you rearrange?
You can deny you said them and add a few extra words.
Or if we start speaking Bulgarian.
No, we'll just start speaking, you know, dude talk, sort of dude talk, respect.
Or if I start speaking.
Please translate into prog.
So, which means we thought the interplay between the parts worked very well within the overall sonic framework.
Okay,
shut up.
I want to finish. Shut up. I want to fire for the corny question, which I also end up reading interviews and thinking, well, why didn't he ask that? And it is, at what stage in your past did you sort of decide, hey, you know, this musical stuff, I'm really going to take it seriously and go, you know, big time, band, the whole lot? Because I went through music lessons, as most of the kids in my school did, but none of us actually ever thought, well, you know, I'm going to take this seriously. So, I mean, sort of, what event was it, and sort of when in your past did you say, well, you know, I'm going to take this seriously, or I'm going to sort of pack up the minute I leave school?
Do you mean individually or as a band?
Well, individually.
Well, there never was a point for me at all.
It's just what, a natural...
it's just sort of naturally progressed.
You just enjoy doing it.
Right. Hey, respect. Naturally progressed from, you know, just with playing in bands for the last 10 years or 12 years, from Sheffield up to here, you know, and there's never one point that I thought I'm going to take this thoroughly seriously. My attitude is that if something big breaks, something big breaks.
What about going back to school, sort of early teens? I mean, were you
no.
Nothing there at all?
No, not at school. No, I didn't start playing in bands until I was about 19, so 20. So you know, it was never an issue, and it's just basically rolled on as opposed to as opposed to a decision that was made. I just sort of fell into music, and I just haven't fallen out of it yet. That's about the best way I can put it.
What about you, Mark?
I think
drugs isn't usually something you pick up at school.
I think the best answer is... I think really the more other people start taking you seriously, the more you take yourself seriously. I mean, I've been in loads of bands in years gone by. Nothing that's ever done anything compared to GLD, but I just think it was the day that we started playing gigs and people started taking us more and more seriously, enjoying what we did more and more.
Yeah.
It just goes off from there.
The inevitable corny question, I'll wait for Julian's answer. An incredibly corny question, I want to ask you, musical influences. What sort of early bands, artists did you sort of get into? What were your sort of bands that you listened to? I mean, I'm really going back to youth here, the sort of era in which most people claim, well, that's the sort of music that decided.
T-Rex.
Julian.
That's a good answer. That's a T-Rex.
The first band I really enjoyed. I was very young.
Anyone else? Anything you'd admit to?
Well, a seminal album for me was Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance.
And it shows in the music.
I guess mine from a very early age was Tommy and Quadrophenia. I was really into the Who because my dad was into the Who, and I thought, yeah, that's cool. And she had a heart attack, and then it sort of progressed from there into Zeppelin, into Sad Cafe, into all kinds of stuff. Really.
The first song I really got off was when I was about 4, like the runaway train came down the track. You
That's
No one's
right.
gonna- no-
Ed Stupid.
That's the one.
Respect.
You're not going to admit to any Marillion influences at any stage.
Yeah,
so
there
people are going to laugh.
No,
if
no.
somebody
Personally,
doesn't
I don't like
mention.
Marillion, but that's purely a personal
I was
viewpoint.
in a situation where I was in a progressive band in Sheffield called Legacy, and we basically wrote a song called Malarak.
Anorak.
Which basically came out, well, we wrote it, and then about 2 months later, Grendel came out, and it was so bloody similar. It was
All these
untrue.
songs
But
coming
we
out,
actually
by the
wrote that
way.
first, and
If you're
so
gonna take the
Marillion
piss,
is
it's
Marillion
not.
ripped you off.
No, Marillion, no, I don't think they did.
Show everything to
Yes.
us.
It was just sheer coincidence, that's all it was. And they were playing similar music to us before we'd even heard of Marillion. I mean, Marillion came to the Limit Club in Sheffield, really tiny place, and we went there and we thought, that's us. They're playing exactly the same type of stuff, and it was just very, very strange, just very peculiar.
Well, the rest of you actually come from this area. You don't. I mean, this is geographically. This was Marillion's area, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah,
places like the Red Lion Bista that you've played. That's the same places that Marillion played at.
Yes,
from my
yes and no.
memory.
I came from the south coast. Martin came from Scunthorpe, Sheffield way.
Oh, so you're not from this area? No,
No.
nobody actually.
Julian is, am I right in saying? Reading?
Reading.
Yeah, broadly speaking.
Um,
Marillion were Aylesbury, weren't they? Aylesbury
Yeah, that's right,
based.
yeah.
I think they certainly.
Yeah, we
similar
played a few of
places,
their
Milton
old haunts
Keynes,
from the early
Brooklyn,
days.
those
Lewis from Eton.
where did he actually come from? Really? Was he born? Or was
He was
he
born in.
He wasn't born. He was an airfits kit was put together at 16. You can still see the scenes of the
He
balsa.
was the unholy
balsa
spawn
glue,
of
you know.
Peter Gabriel and Rick Wakeman.
Louis was sequenced.
He just fell out of a disc drive one day.
When the Grey Lady Down actually formed, and how did you actually all come together? As you clearly come from
well,
different areas, how did you
now,
actually form?
It was all due to a guy called Paul Smith who introduced me to Louis years ago in about 1980. Would have been 88.
Don't ask me.
87, 88. He said, do you want to come down and sing on some tracks? So I thought, yeah, all right. So I went down to Louis when he used to live in Oxford, and we laid down a song called Close Tonight, which incidentally we probably will use because it is a good song. Then about a year later, Louis phoned me up and said, do you want to form a band? So at that time, there was Louis, myself, a drummer who had the biggest drum kit and the biggest guy I've ever seen, who used to, oh my god, he was a heavy metal drummer basically. So we're trying to write prog music with this heavy metal drummer, and we used to rehearse here at the warehouse, but we used to rehearse from about 12 midnight to about 8 in the morning to try and get it, and that's when most of the songs were actually written here.
Yeah.
And anyway, we went through guitarists. Julian turned up after bumping
Yeah.
into Louis in the pub.
Yeah. Well, we can't actually reveal the entire story. Oh wait, hold on, my own picture. Hello.
So if you're going to take the piss, come in camera.
Oh right.
He said it.
Yes. Well, we can't actually reveal the entire story, but
Quick change the subject.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
I'm embarrassed now. Broadly speaking, I was too drunk to know better, and I met Louis in a pub, and he said, "Do you want to join a band?" And I said,
You were best pal.
and that was it really, you know. And then I sobered up and thought, "Fuck," but it's too late.
Yeah, and at that point I drafted in Stuart Ellerington and Andrew Ray, which are two friends of mine from Sheffield who were in Legacy. And they stayed with us for about a year, but due to logistics, I mean, Stuart was coming down from Scunthorpe, Andrew lived in the south of London, so logistics, that just sort of fell apart. And then we advertised for a good bass player and a drummer.
And then he got us, yeah.
Yeah, that went horribly wrong.
I've seen reference to Shadowland. Where did that come into it?
It was a book
Just-
on my bookshelf. It was
Oh,
nothing
right.
to do with. We were just thinking of a name for the band, and we thought Shadowland. I just saw this book and said, "What about this?" Louis and said, "What about Shadowland?" He said, "Yeah, all right."
So you as a 5-piece were Shadowland 4/8.
Yeah,
Not-
that's right.
Well,
And
not before we joined, yeah.
yeah, before they joined, but we had to change it because of.
Yeah. God knows.
But by early
Mr.
92,
Nolan's outfit. What about your first gig as Grey Lady Down? You know, what were your recollections of the occasion?
Don't remember.
Stepping on stage for the first time, or were you so blotto?
Shitting yourself lots was
I
my
remember
personal
then,
one.
remember there not being
Because I saw on the
very
bootleg
many people
tape
there, but
there was mention on there that it was your first gig.
Cold Stage came from the first
Yeah,
gig there.
that
I
was
also
actually
remember
your
being
first gig.
supported by somebody who's now quite famous.
Oh, go on. No.
Ed Allen Johnson, a violinist.
Mm.
So he owes everything to us too.
Yeah, where was our first gig?
The old fire station in Oxford.
What, the Shadowland one? Did the Shadowland first gig? Or
Dolly, wasn't it?
No, the Great Lake Down first gig.
Old fire station.
on fire station?
Was it our fire station? Crap.
So you actually gigged at Shadowland? Those that-
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah?
We did.
You never actually recorded anything, or
One of our best nights.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. The
The demo
demo
tape was
tape
recorded.
was Shadowland.
was it?
Yeah. Wasn't these two? That was Andrew Ray and Stuart Ellerington.
Yeah, it rocked,
Who were two
then.
of my closest friends, and, they,
Comment.
and I love them.
How did you link up with
Respect.
Cyclops come about? I mean, did you find
That
out?
was
Did
actually
they
thanks
find
to
you?
Martin Hudson.
Could you-
Basically, Malcolm was hunting for, quote, the sort of biggest underground bands on the UK prog scene that were happening but not signed.
And then he dug us up.
And went to Martin for
Couldn't
recommendations.
find any, so landed us.
And amongst other,
You were their first release, yeah?
yeah, that's right. Amongst other names, Martin came up with us,
Yeah.
and we were lucky enough to actually have an album already in the can
Yeah.
that we were possibly going to release on SI, possibly going to release ourselves.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
fact is, the tapes were ready,
So
so it was something he was able to pounce on fairly quickly.
I don't ask this question. With complete freedom to use obscenities and choice insults, how did Mark become your spokesperson?
because he's got the biggest mouth.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I think Rick this one down already.
No, honestly, he's got no scruples. He's got no compassion
I've got
whatsoever.
look, oh.
And he gets
Talks well.
He talks well, and he just seems to get what he wants. And I think that's a throwback to his childhood. But there you go.
Perseverance.
Spoiled brat.
That's right. Yeah. You know the Viz. You know the Viz character. We are actually going to adapt that.
Which one?
Spoiled brat.
Spoiled bastard.
Spoiled bastard.
Yeah, it'd be spoiled Pratt.
What about the name Grey Lady Down? I gather it's something to do with Burt Lancaster or a movie that he
No, it's
starred
Charlton
in.
Heston. It was
Was
Louis'
it Charlton
idea.
Heston? Oh,
Yeah,
Burt
well,
Lancaster
Luge.
splattered.
Uh,
Why name yourselves after
We're just scrabbling around for ages, weren't we? And everything we came up with seemed to be like it must have been done before. And we all went away, put on hats, and tried to think of something
that
completely
suddenly appeared on TV?
I think Louis just happened to be watching this Charlton Heston film and said, "How about Grey Lady
Yeah,
Down?"
it's a
And
toss
having
up
said-
between that and
Worse.
the Wizard of Oz.
I was going to say.
Having said that, I looked
We're
at.
in Kansas anymore.
I stayed at Louis last night and I looked at his bookshelf, and he had a book called The Magicon, and I thought that would have been a superb name
Yes.
for the band.
the Magicon.
Yeah, the book The Magicon that you've got on your shelf.
We could have sued
Oh,
Aquabats
magic.
for their album title.
Oh, I think that's one of Judy's.
That's one of Judy's, yeah. But that would have been a superb name for the band.
Moving on to the crime. Give us some stats. I mean, how many copies did it sell? How many represses? Whatever.
12.
12 represses.
And a half.
No, 12 copies. We had 10 of those back.
That's it.
We're trying to resell them, so if anybody wants, we've actually sold 2. And that was to me and him.
Both to my mother. Yeah.
No, I don't know how many did we sell, Mark?
Mark's always got the
And
numbers.
so you take the piss out of everybody's spokesman, you come to me with all the difficult questions. Look at
No,
it.
we come to you for the dull answers.
Train spotting.
Stato.
It's just on 3,000 now. There were 2,000 pressed originally, those went quickly. There were another 1,000 done. Those have just about all gone. It's been on the verge of a second repress for some time. Second repress. On the
How
spread-
many are you actually shifting in a week, or wouldn't you know that?
Not many now, because obviously the album is a year old, but if the new album goes as well as we anticipate, we think there'll be a lot of interest in the first album based on that.
I actually saw it advertised. I subscribe as an ex-record dealer, the Record Collector magazine. I actually saw the album advertised in this month's issue for the first time ever. Only part of a Birmingham outlet that just
Is
listed.
that the Plastic Factory?
It could be,
I've
yeah,
heard about
yeah,
that place,
No.
yeah. It's listed. It's the first time I've ever seen it because it's never listed.
Oh, we should sell about
So I should sell another 2 or 3.
4 on the back of that.
The only problem is that the Cyclops label, to some extent, have maybe made the same mistake that SI did, which is that they've bunged up a lot of product, some very good, some not so good,
Yeah.
in a short space of time.
Go on, name
And
some names.
they've crowded the market with about 20 CDs in a year, so
Yeah.
it makes it difficult to focus on one particular one. I think what Malcolm wants to do this year is to only release about 5 or 6 CDs, of which ours will be one, and concentrate a lot more attention on the albums.
How does its sales compare with what you expected at the time or hoped for at the
I
time?
think we knew what to expect, didn't we?
No, we just
No.
basically did it. We just wanted to get the stuff down onto a CD and get it out there and just see what happens.
And how many did you press originally? You must have had some.
2000.
Is that sort of standard figure, or did you think, well, it'll probably shift 2,000?
Again, I think Malcolm was guessing. When we know that bands like IQ sell about 7,000 or 8,000, Pendragon sell about 10,000 or 12,000. I think he knew we wouldn't do that kind of figure on a first album, but I think he hoped we'd do a couple. I think he was pleasantly surprised by how they went. Our album and the Grace album went very well in the early days. Some
That
of
was
the
the
others,
second release, was it? The Grace?
yeah, well, they actually came out on the same day.
Great!
Ours was CYCL001 and theirs was CYCL002. They actually came out on the same day.
Yeah. How far afield has the album got in terms of worldwide travels? I mean, who can you claim to have sold to? I know you've mentioned Americans.
Japan certainly, South Korea certainly.
Japan?
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty in Canada.
Bootle.
South America.
They've got quite a clod following in Canada. Or is that a cult?
Is there outlets over there selling it, or they getting them
Kendall
from?
as well. It's going Kendall ball. But they're giving it away with mint cake.
Sorry, what was the question?
Worldwide exposure to it. I mean, is there any outlets elsewhere outside of this country? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Any American outlet?
Yeah, certainly the American connection is quite strong. GFT and Cyclops are actually really a division of feedback in America. Most of the money for the label has been put up by the American side. So I think I'm right in saying that we've sold as many albums, if not more, in America than we have in the UK.
Really?
So the American and Canadian connection is quite big. But there's now distribution for the second album. He's formally signed up people in Brazil, certainly. There's negotiations going on for Australia and the Far East. All of Europe is certainly covered.
World tour coming up.
We're thinking about
US
Europe
tour.
later on again.
Yeah, I'll mention that at the moment.
We're big in Penge.
Or is that Peng?
Going to do a world tour of Stoker.
Now.
Great!
Sorry.
In terms of exposure to the mainstream rock media, in brackets boring old farts, as I wrote at the time, were any efforts made by yourselves or Cyclops to sell the crime to people like Enemy, Melody Maker, Kerrang and other rubbish?
Well,
Gossip
we
Press,
got a
whatever?
review in Kerrang.
We got 2
You
cases
did actually
as
get a
well.
review in it?
3 this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Well, I mean, they
A couple
basically
of
said that
words.
most of it was prog rubbish. I can't
Yes.
stand it, blah blah.
Yeah.
And
Speak.
But you're on there now.
You're on live TV.
BBC.
Good bad, straight by the camera.
Old grey whistle
Excellent.
taste.
Is it an interview, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It's pretty laid back. You can just join in. Admit to anything.
What was your first experience of Grey Light?
Thinking, what a bunch of cunts in the studio today.
First experience of Grey Lady Down was listening to him. Oh
What
dear,
could you want?
tinkling away.
Tinkle, tinkle, he went.
Tinkle,
So you
tinkle,
reviewed,
little
you
flower.
reviewed in Kerrang, but you didn't attempt any of the...
Something
No,
seriously,
what really happened is that, again, to get promotional copies out to the big magazines, you need to have things in their mitts about 2 months before release, or certainly 1 month before release. They won't apparently consider reviewing many things that are already out on the streets.
They won't. So
No,
that's-
they want like advanced stuff. Now, bearing in mind the crime was actually pressed about 2 weeks before it was released. A lot of places apparently said no on the strength of that. But aside from that, you're right, prog is still anathema to most of the big magazines. It's a real shit to try and get in with those people. In theory, Cyclops are doing most...
Athema.
I'm going to look it up
There's
when I get home.
athema
I've
shit
got a
anyway.
dictionary on the
There's
shelf.
an athema there.
I thought you stuck one of those up your ass.
That's right, there's some
Oh, sorry.
In theory, Cyclops are doing most of the promoting and the pushing.
Yeah.
There's little things going on which should help us, like for the second CD, apparently Pinnacle, who are distributing the album in the UK, have a sampler which is sent round to all of the big record shops countrywide
Right.
with the bands that they want to push on it, so that rather than just getting a salesman coming in with like a one sheet and saying this band are great, they can actually give them something which they can go away and listen to.
Yeah.
And we've bought our way, or the record company have bought our way onto the Pinnacle sampler, which comes out in sort of...
Just the track on there.
Yeah,
Which
which track?
track?
That's the way it's done apparently. There's about 12 tracks from 12
So which
different
tracks-
bands.
which track
Julian's
is
now going to take the piss again, so we'll stop for a second.
What are you going to say? Speak.
The Interloper's got a question. Did anybody see the Eurovision Song Contest thing?
No.
You weren't on that?
I saw one of those
I
episodes.
saw bits of it. I saw Samantha Fox.
It's a load of shit. One
Not early.
I was absolutely astounded at the... I mean, they must have been told to go and get
It's Jonathan King. Did it?
music from different...
Yeah, Jonathan King did. He
So
toured all the majors and said, "Give us an act. Give us a serious act." Yeah, no.
But no, I mean, different styles. I mean, every
Yeah,
bloody
well, it's
song.
Jonathan King did it. He wanted a rap act. He wanted a soul act. He wanted an indie act. That's what he said on the radio he was going to do. I mean, that band from Wales hadn't got a hope in hell over
Oh god, they were awful.
I mean-
weren't they? They were just like 16-year-olds with their
That's right.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
Good, were they?
It wasn't even
Yeah,
a good
that's a
example.
little
of
tongue stuck out the
But there was,
side.
Oh,
there were
dear.
two, there was one rap track which
Sort of
was
I bet
recall
there wasn't a
Kurt
problem.
Cobain. It
There
was.
was one half
Yes, it
reasonable
was.
song.
There was one London Beat.
I got a form through.
It was
Yeah.
really
You
good.
gave
And
it
I
to
thought,
me, I remember.
this is too good, these guys sing.
It was the rap song one.
That's
didn't
right.
it?
If you're going to go in
What rule
Eurovision,
does
you've
that
got to
do?
write a
That the
crap
song had to be 3
song.
minutes long at most.
Yeah, that
With
was...
a bit of stuff
Yeah.
on
Blew
that.
it out.
We actually got the paper. Yeah, we had the
Send them 1/5 of the flop. We did actually get an entry form for the Eurovision Song Contest
But
straight up.
I was just thinking to myself, I mean, I used to be a band, blah, 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 but
Blah blah blah.
You take it away, mate.
I was just
Yeah, well, just sort of
Grunge band. Of some
how,
sort.
at the end of the programme, I thought how amazingly diverse the music
It was
scene
deliberate.
has become in
Yeah.
this country. It is so disjointed now.
That's right.
There's sort of no...
That's why it's not selling in the US.
Well, yeah, you're right. That's probably the reason. I couldn't believe the different styles that they were putting on. It just amazed me, and I thought, well,
Anyway,
someone would just pull it all back together.
is this what you're looking for, young man?
Yeah, well, we're not going to
Eurovision. Bloody machines, that's what it is.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, Mr. Lynn.
Very few reviews of the album were sort of anything but extremely positive, certainly the ones I read, but which of all the reviews you saw made you sort of punch the air and say, yeah?
I think it was probably the first one, which is also the most important, which was Graham Younger at Blindside.
Right.
Just wrote back with absolute stonkers.
I did write to him saying, can I subscribe and never got a response, and it still exists. So.
But, you know, we didn't, when your first album comes out, you just don't know how it's going to be received, so waiting for those first reviews is very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
By post.
Captain Droll.
The two epics on the album, The Ballad of Billy Gray and The Fugitive, I mean, how do such epics of sort of 11 and 12 minutes come about? I mean,
Sheer
sort of sit down and say, hey, we need a sort of obligatory prog epic, or is it just sort of
This
evolve?
is a man to speak to.
I
on
just
that
can't write endings.
There's no sitting down saying, well, we've got to have a couple of lengthy tracks in here. It just
No,
the,
they
the,
just
track,
ev-
the track just evolved.
Ideas evolve.
Yeah.
They just evolved. They really did. I mean, The Fugitive is one of the oldest songs.
Because I've listened to some albums, some other bands naming no names, where it just sounds to me like they've just stretched it and repeated it, and just to get sort of double. Not that I felt either of those tracks were, but I've heard.
Strangely enough,
Did somebody say arena?
I came across an old cassette the other day with the very first original Fugitive on there, and it runs at about
30 minutes.
36 minutes.
Does it?
Fuck off.
Extended remix.
Yeah, so the long ones are actually all edited down, you know.
It's called Tease Nearly On.
How much of a buzz did you all get from sort of receiving the best new band vote at the CRS
Oh, it's good.
evening?
Pretty much.
It was good, yeah. It was quite. It was nice to be recognised. I mean, you know, I've been in
Hello, you're a great lady down.
semi in this I don't know, in this business for what, 12 years,
Yeah.
and we've never had anything like that. It was just nice. It was, yeah, you know, I've eventually done something.
About Mark Kelly, did he offer any words of wisdom, or did you offer any words of wisdom to him?
I
Or
was,
was it just that
I
short?
was
you
sorely
never
tempted
chatted?
to go up on that podium and just turn around and say, so you're the bloke in that band that sounds like us. But unfortunately, I didn't quite have the bottle.
I just said to him, get an haircut. And that's all I said.
Yeah, I hope the medication works.
What about 95? You're going for the big, hopefully going to go for the big one. Best band.
The album's as good as it should be.
Yeah.
We've got some competition, obviously. The Arena album has been...
That's
Well hyped.
I was going to say much hyped. I mean, to be quite honest, I think that's true. We've got a new Marillion album to wait for. We may have a new IQ album. So there's going to be a lot of competition.
I wouldn't worry too much about Marillion.
not IQ.
No?
Which hasn't even started writing it yet.
I don't think they were intending to get it out this year. I think that's the plan.
Recording at the end of this year.
So those are the competitors. But
So long as there's no competition, we might have a shout.
as long as nobody else releases an album at all.
Yeah, which all of you out there in TV land don't.
But no, I would like to think that we had a good shot at most of the major honours up there this year.
Well, this is the longest question, so I'm going to read this one out, so I don't want to miss a word out. I know this is an issue that Mark was agonising over recently, but given that without at least initially categorising your music, it would be difficult to sell yourselves, but given equally that such categorisation attract, how do you want yourselves portrayed? As you'll be gigging soon, how do you want yourselves advertised?
It's an A-level
I mean, I used to
question.
write that.
About
About 17
discuss.
commas. 16 commas and hyphens in this one.
Disgust.
Categories, basically.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to fix up a gig for you and Peter, but I will have similar problems. I know because.
You're right. It's a bit of a.
Do I put prog and they all go prog? No, forget it, sort of thing.
It's a paradigm, isn't it?
Well, we're sort of
You've got to have one. And all these people that say, well, we don't like being pigeonholed. It's all well and good, but you need to have a category, I think, to get
Yes
in.
and
You're
no.
right. Prog sells it to the people who like prog and put off the people who don't. The melodic tag I personally don't like because I think it's far too general.
I mean, I don't like to categorise it in any way. I mean, we write progressive rock music, but hopefully we don't write it to
No,
be gospel
no,
according
actually,
to say prog.
When I convince friends to listen to the album who don't normally listen to this music, I've just said rock, and that's it. And they'll go away and listen to it thinking it might be something else, but they'll still listen to it.
I've agonised and spent some time trying to find a new
one,
phrase that
beautiful.
would describe us, and without sounding
It's not
utterly
easy.
pretentious and head up arse,
Yeah.
you like intelligent rock or something like
Yeah.
that, which sounds so fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
say head up
sounds shit,
arse,
so why did you say it?
because it does sound shit. As well.
Basically, Louis writes prog and we fuck it over till it rocks. So if you call us prog, which has been fucked over, then that would be a pretty good sort of title, okay?
Fucked over prog.
Fucked over
This
prog.
is exactly what
Could be
happened
it.
here.
Yeah, I mean, we just.
He
I don't
writes
know.
it and we mess it up.
You know, I mean, the way it sort of evolves, it is not standard prog.
No, it's
well,
not.
It's prog
I
with
don't think
balls.
so.
The big difference between us and other prog bands is that what we play does count.
Trouble is we're prog with ping pong balls.
Yeah, it's sort
You
of
know, any other prog
it's sort
bands
of
recently?
nicey, and then you get a smack on the nose. You know, it's sort of, I don't know.
That's a relative.
Could run.
Yeah, we're kind of like a pervert with a bag of sweets. It's like, here you are, little girl, here you are, little girl. Doof.
Next. On the touring front, how demoralised do you actually...
Moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on, changing
the
the
next
subject.
little girl.
I told you there's no sequence to these questions. On the touring front, how demoralised do you actually get, if at all, you know, when you prepare and travel to a gig and find there's sort of like only a handful of punters?
Basically, Martin bars them all a beer.
E.g. Leicester and High Wycombe, yeah.
It's par for the course, not just for prog, but for any band, quite frankly, now. It's really shit that people aren't prepared to put their hand in their pocket and pull out £2 to go and see any live music now. It's not just prog.
Further north you get, the better it gets.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I used to really agonise over the fact there's only about 3 people, but over the last couple of years I've just thought to myself, sod it, just have a good time. I mean, like High
practice
Wycombe.
session, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, we had. I mean, there
all
was.
the time.
How many was it, Paul? There was about 7 there,
Well, that's 7 more than the crowd in Marlow.
and we just had a laugh. We really had a laugh.
The difference is, I mean, like High Wycombe, yeah, there's about 2 people, 2.5, counting the sad bloke in the corner. But the thing is, they travel. But they travel fucking miles to see us. They're really into our music.
Yeah, they're entitled to a good show.
And shut up. And like, you know, if there are 2 people in the audience really into it, then that's fucking excellent. If there are 50 people out there who say you're shit, then we go.
I'm sorry, did I stop you because I assumed at
Rock
some
and
point you
roll
were going to make a
answer.
facetious comment, and just for once you surprised me and didn't.
Have you got a different, I mean, bearing all this in mind, are you going to go out with a different game plan on the next time you tour? I mean, are you going to just pick on places you know you're going to get a reasonable crowd, or are you going to still
To a
explore new
degree,
places?
yes. To a degree, we're not going to play the too many dog and buckets, I hope.
No.
There's no point in flogging
And
dead
are you
horses,
predominantly still aiming at pubs?
Yeah, pubs. I mean, but you know, when we go to Rotherham and stuff like that, I mean, that is the icing on the cake. It's absolutely superb up there. I mean, the further north you get, the better it gets, of course. So they're not all southern buses.
We have a gig in Killycranky next week.
No offence, southerners.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Greenland.
Go down to Greenland.
But
Shetland.
it is an important point though that a lot of the funding of the album, I mean, if you go out and play a pub, you normally get 100, 125 quid for it. And if you do, 7 of those in a month, it's a lot of money in the bank. And without doing those kind of gigs, even though they are shit sometimes, we wouldn't have the money to come in here and get ripped off by these guys.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this is the engineer. This is Steve. He's
Steve Watkins, respect.
Yeah, enough respect, Steve.
For those off
key
camera,
man.
I shall explain the scenario. There is a baseball bat, there is an engineer, there's Mark's head. Fill in the gaps.
What about your search for sound engineer? Sound engineer.
Hasn't started.
Hasn't
We'll
started.
start in the next newsletter.
Yeah.
So you've got
Steve.
no people you're going to try and
Steve's
work
going
on.
to do
and
it. He doesn't
convince.
know it yet.
Yeah. The only trouble is he wants paying, so we've got to sort of work rough with large amounts of money.
We want somebody really to work on 3 fronts. We want somebody on sound, somebody on lights, and somebody to sell merchandise afterwards.
Yeah.
So what we really want is a blonde bird with big tits who's got a degree in sound engineering. If you know anybody,
Essentially.
A couple of rumours I picked
don't
up.
print that.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Get rid of the beard, bit of rouge, sorted.
Sexist pride.
I'll be as camp as...
Yeah, no, that was sexist. Sorry,
We'll scrub that.
ladies.
A couple of rumours I picked up earlier in the year, and you may even have picked them up from yourselves. One, that you may be supporting a mainstream band, prog, rock band later in the year, and secondly, you might be gigging in Europe.
Okay.
Do you want to deny either of those?
Well,
Or
firstly, there are
substantiate
no mainstream prog bands.
No, I
are
don't think
there?
there was actually.
I mean, there's Pink Floyd, but they're not really prog because they're also cool.
Or would you like the person who knows what they're talking about to answer this question? Malcolm was trying to get us on the arena tour, basically.
All right. I don't know where I picked it up from. It may have been from yourself.
I can't remember.
I
But
didn't know that.
he was trying to get us onto that tour. Unfortunately, it hasn't come off. Mariah Fool's got it, so I'm told. Which should be quite fun.
When are they touring?
Back end of the year.
Do you know what sort of venues they're planning on playing? Just out of curiosity and changing the
Well,
sort of-
apparently the album's done 20,000 now. I mean, whether
Yeah,
it's
they're gonna
online or
pitch in
whatever, you
playing
can walk out
big.
of their elbow.
So
Yeah,
they're going to go.
because they're wankers.
No.
That's a joke.
No, I mean, as Louis rightly said yesterday, that if the prog thing takes off again on the back of Arena,
Yes.
there's a lot of people out there who don't seem to want prog to make it. They want to seem to let it stay underground
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
cool and it's not
Yeah.
like not the dumb thing to have it back in the open again. Personally, I think if a band does crack it fairly big, it can only do the rest of us good.
Yes, I agree.
That's right.
Whilst talking about arenas, probably a valid point to ask the question. Well, we've talked about influences from the past, but of the current sort of stable of melodic stroke prog rock bands, are there any you sort of listen to or enjoy gigging with, or people you particularly?
The nasty stuff.
I know there's plenty I'm sure you don't like gigging.
I mean, respect goes out to Jadis for being excellent blokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that much.
Respect.
John Jowett isn't mad either.
No, it's
No,
not.
there are, you know, I mean, I've got the Jadis album, just you know, on the back of them being nice guys, and it is a good album. Across the Water's a brilliant album. But no, I mean, I personally don't listen to a lot of prog nowadays. No.
I listen to
I mean, the last album I bought was Radiohead. So.
Yeah, prior to that is Oasis.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to do a quick teenager impression?
Whoa.
Let's move on.
Again, it comes back to what is progressive, though, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I listen to bands that are really progressive, you know, like the sort of the Crimson are doing now. But that isn't what's normally pigeonholed as progressive rock.
No, it's not. Alright, moving on to the current album then quickly. At what stage is the album at, and at what release date are you aiming for?
June the 26th is the big
I know
day.
you've answered this off camera, but where are you actually at the moment in terms of recording?
We've got most of the backing tracks down. The vocals are being done at the moment. They should be done in the next 2 hours.
Yeah, the machine should have finished fairly soon.
And then we've
Sparky.
got the lead guitars to put down and a few other bits and bobs, and we should be done and dusted, ready for mixing.
Alright. What about track order? I know two of you have admitted already today you don't know what the track order is or can't remember it.
I do.
Anybody can remember it?
Yeah, the boring bloke does.
Yeah, I thought it might.
Captain
Stato.
Boring.
What, really?
You got my anorak.
Stato.
Paradise Lost,
Stato.
which was formerly known as Guilt, which was formerly known as For Love
Yes,
or Money.
I gathered that earlier.
The Nail, which nobody's heard.
Absolutely.
Battlefields of Counterpain, Without a Trace, The Cold Stage, I Believe, The Flyer.
And a bonus track at the end, yet to be announced.
2 bonus tracks at the end.
Oh, strike that. That isn't going in. Because nobody, you're the only person who knows that. Do not put that in because
He's going to let us
not be
see
there.
it's very odd.
What
That's
is-
definitely going
why
in there, that last bit.
What about the
Yeah, I
post?
believe.
What about the post 10-minute epics in amongst that? How many lengthy tracks you got in there? Must be 2 or 3 at least.
With the trumpet on the beginning, Counterpain is easily over 10 minutes. The Flyer is 13. Cold Stage isn't quite 10. So basically, again, there's 2 that are more than 10 minutes.
So what sort of length is the album going to be?
58 minutes, so the average track length is going to be up on last time.
Indeed, indeed.
It's big.
It's interesting to note the album not only contains recently penned material, but also some of the older material. I mean, I was curious as to what made you determine that a pre-crime track such as Cold Stage, was one of my favourites, was appropriate for this one, but not for the last one.
Well, we write to bleeding slowly, we had to use the old stuff.
No.
It was there.
It was not. I mean, the Cold Stage was one of the forward runners, but I think, I mean, from my mind at that time, it hadn't. It was
evolved.
a good song. It hadn't evolved, and it wasn't fresh anymore. And we thought, no, you know, we're not going to put that on the album. But it's all twisted around now. We basically got back into the song. We think, yeah, that is not a bad song.
Yeah.
And everybody, and it's turning out to be one of the best songs on the album. Actually,
Yeah, well, I heard on the bootleg for the first time and thought, well, that's a
We got back into playing it live.
yeah, and we sort of, we
Yeah.
tweaked it a bit, and now it's one of our favourite tracks. So it's basically if you just get bored with the song, then you don't really put your heart and soul into it. We didn't think we could put our heart and soul into it, so we didn't do it.
Is there any leftovers from this album? Any tracks that you decided, well, no, we'll develop that further, maybe for the next one? There's nothing. So it's all in.
Don't worry, there's plenty in the pipeline, or should I
Plenty in
say,
the pipeline.
the sequencer.
So you're not selecting from a catalogue.
No,
of-
with yes.
Remarkable. Captain U-turn.
Oh,
No, yes.
yes.
No.
No, yes.
May I just say this is the first time I've been on television.
I'm sorry, there wasn't
Just heard that my grandma was Can we cast on
Arthur Negus has held Bristol's. That's not a result, just a piece of gossip.
Serious Monty Python stuff. This will cause some titters, no doubt. Tell us about your songwriting team. Is the writing team of David Hunt Wilson still dominating, or is the pause for laughter odd Robotham Spear credit coming in on the album?
There is a Robotham screw.
Is there?
Screw.
There is a Robotham screw in me.
On which track?
Counterpain.
Counterpain.
What do you write on Counterpain?
The end.
The last note.
Oh, right, yeah. Mark said instead of going bum, but, like all our last names, we go bum 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 bum.
But it's good.
Has the key changed before that?
Oh yeah, you said it'd be good if we changed key.
Yeah, no, come on, he did. I mean, come on, you know, it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that guitar part I wrote for your rhythm the other day.
Yeah, but you did write that,
Alright.
and you do get a credit.
So the absent
gets respect.
The absent Sean doesn't sort of leap into anything the same.
Oh, he hasn't leapt into
Where is he
anything
anyway?
for years.
Does anybody know?
He should have been here, but basically I probably got seriously pissed up last night and hasn't given a shit to get here.
He's playing some wicked bass guitar and fretless bass guitar, and he's only used one track, and he was quick, and we love him.
We've actually started calling
Wonderful
him
person.
Stocky though, which isn't to do with his size, it's actually short for Stockhausen. Some of the interesting bass lines he's laid down.
Captain Jazz.
How does your actual writing team work? I mean, do you work generally from a lyric base, or do you start with musical ideas and add lyrics to it?
It's
or is
a
it
musical base. I mean, what we said earlier on is actually true. Louis comes up with all of the original ideas, and we bastardise them.
Yeah, Louis comes in with a load of really good crock
not denying
ideas. We then fuck them over. Louis then punches us until we let him keep most of them. And we then punch Louis until we can have some cool rocking. And that's
And
how it goes.
then I write the lyrics.
And then Martin writes the lyrics.
Then Louis rejects.
And then
There's a couple of the
Louis.
songs. There's a couple of the songs where Louis and I have collaborated on the actual lyrics, which is which has worked very well.
So you don't come in like some
Even-
bands do
even
with
though I did
great
throw a strop,
poetic
and I do
lyrics and
apologise.
saying we've got to fit this to a song. It's the song.
No, that's never really
No,
happened.
it's music then lyrics every time.
Just occasionally, Tim, not often enough unfortunately, we do occasionally get a chance to improvise and something good comes out of an improvisation that we might use.
When?
Then we
Has
get to take to
Name
Martin
one
and
bit
use.
we've
Yeah.
used on this album from an improvisation.
Louis says that there are many times we have improvised that he's got a little idea in his head, gone home with it and developed.
And then we later tape, they give it to me, and I tape over it.
Counterpaint, for example.
For example, yes.
Assuming the title Forces is still there, which
Yeah.
I'm sure it is, what process as a band did you go through to actually reach the title? And
Arguments, kicking, fighting.
where did it come from?
Beer.
Came from the idea.
I saw some of the options earlier on, but
Came from the idea that
Didn't understand.
Battlefields of Counterpain is basically about a little boy playing with toy soldiers. So you've got the army
His toy
connection.
soldier.
The Flyer
It's a
is
concept
about
album.
World War II. Well, not really. The Flyer is about a World War II flying ace. So you've got the Air Force connection, and Grey Lady Down comes from a submarine. So we have
It's a
three
concept.
forces. Having said that, the sleeve doesn't reflect the military connotations at all. I wish I had it here actually. I could have shown you.
Indeed.
I've got a copy of it in my briefcase at home. But it's a nice sleeve. It's a very pretty.
There's
Colourful sleeve.
natural forces and emotional forces as well.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, when we decided on forces, Mark told me it was absolutely nothing to do with the military connection, and his answer has just said it's completely to do with the military connection.
No.
Just developed
What
it.
Mark
We
said
also
was
that you
that
said,
the-
"Oh, get really upset if there's a military connection." So we got fuck
What
off.
Mark said that the cover was not going to reflect a military
Thank you,
type
Mark,
of
for
thing.
standing up.
He said that what we're going to do is try to have different
But he's
forces
sitting
on there,
down.
on the actual force of weather or whatever. But the way it's worked out is that you do get a little bit of the military thing, but you get everything else as well, all the other forces that are. This is, get my head out my arse now.
Also, I think what decided in the end was the fact that with the band name being so long, we didn't want a long album title.
No.
Otherwise, you end up with like all the front of it.
Who's actually done the artwork for the cover? You said he sent it away.
The brother of a customer of mine down in Cornwall. It's a guy that started out his career like painting fishing boats on Cornish villages and this sort of thing.
Wow,
And has
lovely,
gone on
lovely.
to start his own graphic design company, a guy called Win Macy.
Walk
And
into
it's
a village
really
and paint
bloody
it.
good.
Good.
I say if I'd have thought, I would have bought it along.
I think I'll paint this village green.
But it's going to be a nice sleeve.
I'm not sure I understood what I meant by this question. What are the Grey Lady Down of '95 doing with forces that the Grey Lady Down of '93 recording the crime didn't? You've got
Making
half an hour to
mistakes,
think about what that
getting
means
kids wrong.
first.
We've got a bit more time this time. We're trying bits and bobs. Some of them are working, some of them are not. Some of them might come out on the final album, some of them might not. We're just trying different things.
The most important thing that we're doing with this album that we didn't do last time is using a producer.
Yeah.
That was my next
I mean,
question.
And pre-production.
yeah, I mean, essentially, what you will find in this album is that the quality of the material is through the roof. It's great, okay? Because we're not going to be modest about this, okay? We're going to get this straight down. The quality of the material is
Bullish.
great. The sound quality will be infinitely better than the first one. But
Is that because of the
playing's still
technology?
crap.
Or is it just great, better technology?
It's a better engineer. Respect to Steve.
Respect.
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 Okay, it's because of the
Yeah.
engineer Tim Tuan. Respect to Tim.
Yeah.
And
We did the crime on a very, very small
I mean,
budget.
Tim was involved in the crime, wasn't he?
No,
So
no.
I've seen
Oh,
his
yes,
name.
yes,
Yeah, it was on.
yes,
It's on the
yes,
sleeve.
yes.
Can't
He did
deny
it at
it's on the
mastering for us
sleeve.
and-
He basically saved the bloody thing because what we came out with in terms of tapes were all over the shop in terms of endings, distances between tracks. He cleaned the whole thing up.
He's mastered it very well.
Tidied it up.
Yeah.
And now he'll be in for the mix down, and it's going to turn out well because we've got enough time to do it. And if we need more time, we can actually do that now. Where before we just ran out of time on the last album at mix down, and it was that was a bit of a problem.
The Crime just cost £2,000 to record, and that is not a lot to spend on an album.
Yeah, and the engineer we had for the Crime was a cunt. No, cunt's not rude enough.
You can edit that out, can't you?
We're going to edit most of this out.
Yeah, Dodge, no respect.
No one's going to run
But
with
this
it.
is the next album.
Tosser.
This dodgy.
That's right, every saying about you as soon as you leave the building.
Has it all gone fairly smoothly? I mean, there's always little things that go wrong, but I mean,
Oh,
generally
yeah.
speaking, it's all gone.
I mean,
No
on the whole, it
disasters.
has. I think. I mean, there are bits that some of us are finding difficult to get our head around.
What do you think it sounds like from what you've heard so far?
Well, from what I've heard, it sounds fine. Sounds good. Yeah.
Fine.
Hit.
Fine, good.
Well, I've only listened to 3-4 minutes of it. your vocal track.
Fine. Good.
Fine, good.
Yeah, it's fine.
It'll
Good.
develop as the
That'll
day
do for
goes.
me, as long as it's good.
Fine.
I mean, there are bits that we're, some of us are struggling with, but at the end of the day, those can be tweaked and messed about with. I mean, it's nothing to fall out over, really, but I think it's gone relatively well.
We've tried to make the album sound as live as possible, so...
Nod your head there, Luke.
What?
Just say, yeah.
Oh, all right.
But,
Is it going to be the big one?
yes. Fucking is. It's going to be great.
Oh, I think so. Going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Now, these are really difficult questions to answer. The last couple about the future. Where do you think the current prog melodic scene will be in 18 months' time, and where do you think you're going to be?
Grey Lady Down will be the scene, and at the top of it.
No.
Up its own arse.
Without being too negative.
I think I think it's always going to be there, and I don't. I mean, I can't see it over the next 8
You don't think
months
it'll grow?
developing more,
No.
any more than it.
I completely
It is-
disagree. I mean,
is
I
at the
think this album is going to redefine prog in a lot of respects. I mean, it's
It's actually starting to sound pretentious.
it rocks.
Carry on anyway.
No, I mean, we're doing things other prog bands would not consider.
That's
because
right. The
it's
gospel
not for,
according to St. Prog is dead.
yeah, out, buried. We spat on its grave and ate its children alive. Man,
Peeled first.
yeah, we peeled them, then we ate them,
We rubbed salt into them.
then we had them
This is all being white.
We decapitate jelly babies.
and defecated down the hole.
You'd support the view as I do, though. What it only needs really, whilst you think it might not grow, it only really needs one album to punch its way through, and then the rest are going to say, well, there must be other bands like this.
So I can't understand people that don't want it to like come up from the underground again, because there are people like that out there.
They just want to get in the gigs cheap, that's all it is.
Equally for now, we've got to get
Strike
to Europe,
that as
because
well.
while the scene isn't happening in this country very much, it's undoubtedly happening a lot more in places like Holland. We've got to get over there this year, definitely.
Is this a definitely European trip?
It's
or-
not a definite. I'm talking to people in Italy, Spain, Germany, Holland, and France.
But this gobby's not using a phone, I tell you.
Multilingual.
Hello,
And it's coming together. I've had positive responses from Italy and Spain so far.
Because I mean, Pendragon tour over there and pick up some pretty huge crowds, don't they?
That's
They're
right.
Quite,
Even some of the gigs that Jadis have done in Holland, they've got some huge audience.
We're thinking of doing
But you won't stop him picking
a
your belly
5-day
button.
tour in a van
5-day tour in a van.
type thing with a week's holiday. Sorry, I found that quite funny.
A final question, a silly question, is Mark's going to answer this one. Would he like to...
Appreciate it.
This was based on the fact that Martin Hudson was going to run with it. Would he like to deny or confirm that he was the guy in the Volkswagen advert?
I haven't actually seen that advert since you pointed this
Well,
out.
I've had the video ready to go, it's just not, it's finished. It's finished, the advert.
You must let me see it sometime. I've not seen it for ages.
I'll let you see it. Well, I think that's it, actually. Nothing
Let's
else
knock it
else
up.
you particularly want to...
So, Paul, moving on from a little bit of toast and no parley, what are your plans for the future?
I'm finished, the voice is knackered. If I hang around long
You
enough,
realise you have a spitting image of a friend of mine called Mark Jefferson?
is that good or bad?
Absolutely spitting image.
Spitting
It's,
image?
it's uncanny. I just thought I'd throw that on that.
I could be him.
So that's
Sorry about those horrendous results.
no, it's a lot like you should probably use.
No, I mean, what I'll do is I'll stick it all down on paper and send it to you.
Well,
If
you've
there's
got a minute-
anything else by then that you think, well, we would need to put that in. I mean, this is promotion.
You've got most of the salient points through. And if you want a video a little bit in the studio in a second,
Yeah.
Right.
we get back in there and get on the mail.
You've got, Steve, before I forget,
Thank you very much.
Damn it.